This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Welcome to the Supreme Resort, Land v. World, a podcast about Disneyland and Walt Disney World, and which is the Supreme Resort. Each episode, we will discuss and explore each resort ride by ride, land by land, park by park to determine which is better. I'm your host, Jimmy, and thank you for joining me on this quest to help the greater good of humanity answer this long, elusive question. Which is better, Disneyland or Walt Disney World? Joining me as always is Dan.
Single rider. Single rider.
And to finish out the chant, Eric.
Don't tap your mic.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. And also joining us, a Supreme Resort All-Star, one from DL Weekly, Mr. Tag.
Hello.
Hi, Tag. Sorry, that's where you say words. My bad.
Well, I was, sometimes people say last names too, so I wasn't sure if you were going to like pause it. You're like, Tig! And it was like up on the high, so I didn't know if you were going to continue on.
I
apologize.
Taking it back. Don't know your last name.
We can't do that because I'm in witness protection program.
Don't forget that not only DL Weekly, but also the Hub Crawl.
I was going to bring that up.
Oh.
Just you wait. You're not looking at my notes. Also, DL Weekly, and then also, what is the latest on the DL Weekly? What's going on DL Weekly these days?
Well, this coming week, when is this posting?
Soon.
Today.
Real soon.
Yeah.
Coming up at the end of March here on DL Weekly, we have a great two-parter with Jungle Cruise skipper Dr. Skipper, David Marley, who is going to be on and talk about his book and being a Jungle Cruise skipper. And he was a delight to talk to, so we're looking forward to that. Also, we just had a really great deep dive into the D23 Expo and all the details for that as well.
Well, like speculative details or details you know?
Details we know because they announced it last week.
What?
Hold on. So before we get to that, let's get back to, did the former skipper talk about his time as business partner with Ebenezer Scrooge, or did that come up at all?
It did not come up.
Okay. All right. So wait a minute. What? They announced the...
Yeah. So tickets are going on sale this coming week.
So they didn't announce like stuff they're going to announce. They just announced details of the event.
And they announced that they're moving all of the big panels to the Honda Center, which they'll provide complimentary shuttle service to from the Anaheim Convention Center. All of those are going to take place at 7 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights of the convention, with the exception of Sunday night, which will not be at 7 p.m. It'll be at 5 p.m. to kind of wrap up the whole experience. And you will have assigned seating in those areas if you choose that ticket level, so you won't have to wait in line for hours and hours to get a good seat. You'll know what your seat is when you buy your ticket.
Awesome. Well, now, listener, you don't have to listen to DL Weekly. Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, there's a lot more, but...
Oh, there's more.
That actually might make me more interested in going if I don't have to wait in a giant line for hours just to get into a panel.
Yeah.
It's like so many Disney things. Just let me pay for it. I'll go. I'll pay for it.
Well, Eric, they do have a level just for you if you're interested. I think it's like $2,500 or something. And that gets you the seating right in front of the stage in the Honda Center and gets you access to a bunch of other stuff. So if you pay the entry level fee, which is, I think it's like $279 for a gold member, for an adult gold member ticket, you get kind of what people refer to as the nosebleed seats at the Honda Center. However, if you look at a picture of the Honda Center, it's not that far from the main stage, so I wouldn't pay to upgrade any closer. But
$2,000 seems like, yeah.
But you can get up to $2,500, and then that also includes like priority access to some other talks and stuff. They're still going to have those little mini talks and whatnot throughout the throughout the expo during the day. But the big events, the Legends ceremony, the experiences panel is what they're calling it now. So it's all the Disney park stuff and everything. And they're going to have the entertainment panel, which will be Disney Plus, Marvel, Star Wars, all of that all in one.
Oh, cool. Now, so before we get to Hub Crawl, and you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time speculating as much as this show is not particularly timeless, but we do our best at not being, you know, topical. That's not a news program. But I'm fairly excited about the progress of Disneyland Forward, and I wanted to kind of get your take on it. So as of this recording, the Anaheim City Council has not yet approved what the zoning commission approved. Ultimately, one person denied it. Everyone else said, yeah, go for it. And effectively, for the listeners not aware, Disney owns all this property that is not currently zoned for theme parks, zoned for parking or something else. And so the zoning commission is like, yeah, sure, go ahead, build theme parks on this. The Disneyland Forward website effectively shows expansion to the west of both Disneyland and California Adventure, effectively surrounding the existing hotels. And then to the southeast, on the other side of Harbor and south of Catella, there's another Disney themed, I think, what does it say? It says like unique Disney themed something or other, which
it's going to be like a Disney Springs kind of thing
Yeah.
over on what is the existing Toy Story lot.
Right. I suspect it's going to be a water park. That's just my assumption.
No,
It's a shopping, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a
shopping's
theme
better.
park. It's gonna be a theme park.
So, or a water theme park, as Universal likes to get away with. So, Teg,
Volcano Bay does look pretty cool.
what does your take on what is actually Disneyland Forward going to be with the hypothetical approval of the city council?
So I think you summed it up well with what they're getting approval for, which is basically just being allowed to have a little slice of Central Florida pre-DeSantis in Anaheim, which is that they can use the land that they currently own to do whatever they want with it. I mean, they still have to get approvals and stuff, but they don't have to stick to, like you said, a parking lot or hotel occupancy, that kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting because if you look at the concept art that Disney has put out in the Disneyland Forward stuff, it looks like they're going to build, they're going to expand California Adventure kind of into the area south of the Pixar Place Hotel, and they're going to expand Disneyland seemingly into the area between the Pixar Palace parking structure and the Disneyland Hotel is kind of the idea there, at least from the concept art. That concept only, like, don't take this for fact. The other thing that's interesting, if you look at that though, they're doing all of this West Side building stuff in downtown Disney. They've got this nice area now that's a grass area with a performance space, and they're building this Parkside Market and Din Tai Fung and all of this. If you look at the concept art, where those things are, that's supposed to be new theme park stuff. So I find it hard to believe that they would spend all this money and time building brand new stuff at the end of downtown Disney to, within the next 10 years, destroy it and build something different. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think they just want to have the options to do whatever they want.
Right.
And I do hope that this becomes extensions of the existing parks and not trying to shoehorn another park. Honestly, what Disney should have done, it's too late now, in my opinion, is they should have just bulldozed everything in that whole block, moved the hotels to the outskirts of that zoning area, and then built either another park or an expansion of the parks, like, together, because it's going to be really interesting now because they have to build around existing buildings, and I find that really limits some options. Although Disney, and especially Disneyland, has a history of getting around stuff like that. You know, Pirates of the Caribbean goes underground to get outside the berm. Same thing with Haunted Mansion. It's a Small World. So, I mean, they've done stuff like that before, and it's given us some really creative, awesome experiences. So we'll have to see how it goes.
So I guess just, we don't need to spend, again, a ton of time here, and I'll let the others weigh in, but is this the third theme park to the west where, like, Disneyland Hotel is in the theme park now? Or do they truly expand and get rid of Disneyland Drive? Because I think Magic Way is going away already.
Yes.
And then are they going underneath Disneyland Drive, or they cover it like Disney Spring, downtown Disney?
Shows that what they plan to do by if you believe the concept art, is to do like they did with downtown Disney, where they have that bridge that goes over the road that if you're walking over it, you don't even really realize that it's a bridge over the road.
Right.
So the plan is to connect California Adventure to the southern part of that and connect Disneyland to the northern part of that.
And there's no such thing as anymore. It seems that there's no such thing as fluid theme in a Disney theme park anymore. Maybe with the exception of the existing Animal Kingdom, but otherwise stuff just kind of goes where it fits anymore.
Well, I mean, at certain parks, I think Disneyland's still doing a pretty good job for the most part. And probably
I think
Magic
Jimmy's
Kingdom
saying, though,
too. It's
with
been a while.
with the extension of this, I think he's saying that would be a problem.
Oh, you mean like a possible third gate?
Well, no, I'm talking about the extension of the existing parks. Now, all of a sudden, beyond Galaxy's Edge, beyond Critter Country, now you have this expansion.
But we don't know what it's going to be. I mean, they could blend into their Avatar experience, their Pandora world coming out of Critter Country. I mean, they did just fine blending Galaxy's Edge in with multiple directions, except for maybe Toy Story.
How does Galaxy's Edge thematically fit in Disneyland?
We've talked about it before.
Well,
in between
Frontierland
Fantasy and Frontier.
Fantasyland. Yeah.
Galaxy far
It's
away.
a Galaxy
a long time
far
ago.
away. It's not future. It's just a different thing.
I think they did the best with what they could. I mean, it's hard to blend Adventureland to Main Street, but we've done it, right? Like that's a pretty short connection there.
Yeah, I'm not talking about blending. I'm talking about fitting to the overall theme.
It's another world. It's
Look at
another
the plaque.
adventure. It's another location that you can that's a completely different place than the place you were just in,
I
or
think
the outside world.
the westward expansion, first of all, I think is a little bit of a red herring, and I can get into it if you want me to. I think that the biggest transitional problem is Critter Country, because the California Adventure, you could just do a bridge over the street and go like, hey, look, the California streets, like it's not that big of a deal. But going from Critter Country to whatever might seem weird now, but they are just now like leaning in really hard on the idea of Critter Country being about critters. And they've got a whole lot of IP about critters. I mean, we could
Zootopia.
Zootopia possibly,
Yeah.
There's a lot of different, there are things that one can do now that we know that Tiana's Bayou Adventure is in fact going to be part of Critter Country, and it's going to lean in really hard on. I mean, Critter Country is really doubling down on the idea of critters. It's critter time here. There's a lot that we could do there, or that they could do there.
Right.
But I really think that what's going to end up happening is once it gets approved, it's going to be like, okay, guess what? Toy Story parking lot. It's a brand new theme park, and Garden Walk is going to start being like, oh, we're sick. Who wants to buy this thing?
It's so small, though.
What? Toy Story?
Garden Walk is so small.
Well, I mean,
There's nothing there.
It just needs to be extension of Downtown Disney. I'm not saying that they're going to make that into a theme park.
I think Garden Walk is as large as Downtown Disney is.
Yeah,
Which is not
That's
big.
fair. Yeah.
But it's worked so far for the last 20, almost 5 years now.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, enough speculation. Unless you have more to speculate.
Eric doesn't have an opinion.
No, I don't listen to this. I don't listen to this stuff. All I know is my tour guide, Abner, said that for sure Toy Story lot is gone. And that's pretty much what they've admitted at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
and I think that a lot of this discussion has gotten difficult to have because we're in a climate right now where it's like almost impossible for people to have a conversation or speculative discussion if the other person can't come up with like, no, this is the definite idea that they're going to do. Here's my blueprint that I jackass that just like works at Taco Bell that I came up with. Here's my patents. It's just like they do these things that like they're good. I don't know if you know about this, but Disney is good at theme park. And so I think that it's just frustrating for me to have these conversations sometimes because like not this conversation right now, but conversations that I've had with some people where it's just like, I don't know, Toy Story parking lot. It's like, where would they put the parking? Just like, do you really think that they're going to keep that parking lot and keep paying the city of Anaheim to get buses out from like there's a reason why it's been like it's been stagnant. It's because they plan on doing something with that space,
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be shopping.
There's a parking structure in the Disneyland Forward website speculative thing. But anyway.
I also, one last thing I just want to say. I just wish that whatever they do, I wish Disney would go back to generically themed lands and not IP specific lands.
Yeah, good luck. Agree. That's not happening again. Okay, so Tag, before we get to the main meat of the show, Dan just got back from Disneyland today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any Dan's Frosted Tips or trip report you'd like to share?
The castle made me weep because it's so small.
Yeah. It's an ongoing joke, Take.
That's it. That's all I have.
It's ridiculous.
Okay. And then, yeah. Okay.
At least it's not ugly like Disney World's.
Oh, well.
Episode 1, Teg. Episode 1 of this show.
we almost had a whole meltdown on Hub Crawl over the birthday cake decoration.
Oh, castle. Did we now? Because Eric loves it?
Yes.
I do, and we had a guest who loved it.
Yes.
And let me guess, the next episode of Hub Crawl is going to be the best single rider line in all the parks.
No, the next Hub Crawl episode, I'm going to have a new co-host, and we're only going to get people who have been pre-vetted to hate the birthday cake castle.
Hub Crawl, by the way, not on this network, but a wonderful show if you're a Disney parks or Disney fan in general, because every other week they have guests on. And each guest poses a question. It could be anything from what's your favorite Disney animated film to what's the best ride to what is the best single rider line in all the theme parks, which is what we're here to cover today. Today is episode 2 of our springtime spring fun-tacular, because we can't say March Madness. Episode 1 was us getting down to the Elite 8 of the top single rider lines in all of the Disney theme parks. Disney World did it for us because there are only 4. Disneyland, we had to argue for the 9 that are existing, and we boiled it down to 4 using various parameters, and they boiled down to which of these attractions single rider queues has the lowest creep factor, meaning how creepy are you to the people you are joining on their ride? How much time does this save? Obviously, the higher time saver, the better. How does the theme work compared to being in the regular line? And then to get to the final 4, is it better than Lightning Lane? Where we landed there were the 4 attractions at Disneyland are Radiator Springs Racers, the Matterhorn, Space Mountain, and Web Slingers. The 4 at Disney World by default, because there are only 4, are Test Track, Expedition Everest, Rock and Roller Coaster, and the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run.
Jimmy, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
There are legit only 4 single rider attractions in Disney World?
There are legit only 4. Yep. And by the way, you can't at Disneyland.com, you can type in single rider and it will give you a list of all 9 single rider attractions. DisneyWorld.go.gov. If you search that, there is nothing about single riders at all.
Wow. They'll give your computer a virus.
That's right. There's no like a web page, like there's a specific web page dedicated to single rider lines at Disneyland. There's nothing for Disney World. So it's just from experience and looking on the apps and everything else. So,
and all the blogs, all of the mommy blogs love to write about it.
Oh my God. Yes, indeed.
I wrote about it on ConciEARS.net.
ConciEARS.net?
No, it's com.
Okay. That's what I thought. All right.
Eric, I didn't know you were a mommy blocker.
I was.
Look at that.
Dan's laughing about something.
It's the most horrible dark joke ever.
About Disney World giving you a virus?
No. Eric, please cut this out.
21:18. Dan's chair creaking.
Because it is not. It's not a joke we should include in the show.
Oh, if you're gonna say a really bad joke, then I will. You can say the joke, and then I'll do the time code.
When you search
Jimmy looks so ready just to be done right now. Like, can we just pick that thing?
When you search for single rider lines at Disney World, it gives you a pop-up for a suicide hotline.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, no. Trigger warning, everybody.
Holy crap.
By the way, take the episode image for this episode is a delightful picture of Dan by himself at Disneyland, which you'll see when you see the video. Anyway. All right. So how this works is we've broken down the final 8 or the elite 8 into 4 categories. They are brackets. They are slot car bracket, which is Test Track and Radiator Springs Racers. The Coaster in the Dark bracket, which is Space Mountain and Rock and Roller Coaster. The Yeti bracket, Everest versus Matterhorn. And finally, the video game bracket, which is Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run and Web Slingers. So how this will work, listener, is we're going to go bracket by bracket, and Eric, Dan, and I will argue for which we think is the best single rider line. We'll give you a little bit of rundown of what each thing is. Its creep factor. We'll have to argue the creep factor for Disney World since we've already argued Disneyland's creep factor and time save and everything else. So, are you ready?
You said Eric, but I'm pretty sure you meant Tag.
Are you ready too, Eric?
Oh, yes, I am also ready. Yes.
Tag, are you ready?
I'm paying attention.
I'm always ready. I was born ready.
All right, great. Dan, ready?
Hold on. Yes, now I'm ready.
Okay. Another show image should be the my view of my bunk in the last 24 hours. Okay, so let's start with the slot car bracket. They are a Test Track and Radiator Springs Racers. To bring everybody up to speed, Radiator Springs Racers did make the final 4 of Disneyland. To recap, Radiator Springs Racers single rider queue is mostly outdoors. It is a fairly low creep factor because... no, it's medium creep factor.
Yeah, it's medium, yeah.
Wait, which one again?
The Radiator Springs Racers.
Yeah, because you got to sit down next to somebody, usually a kid.
So it's a isolated entrance. It's its own thing. It's basically the same queue. You really don't miss anything. It's a medium creep factor because, inevitably it's a dad and his kid, and the kid's in the middle and you're on the outside and they've already buckled and whatever.
Eric, you just unlocked a memory that I forgot. I'm sure anyone who rides single rider lines has had this. Sorry, everybody. I took the Rika test. My brain is fried. Look it up. When you get to the spot where the rest of your party is that you're joining, and like they did put the kid on the outside, but then they're like, oh, and they like reshuffle.
Dad's in the middle now.
Yeah.
Which makes it like, this is the best seat ever. And then suddenly it's like, great. Now I'm in the crappy seat. Thank you.
Now you really hyped up the creep factor too.
I waited in this line for 2 hours for Radiator Springs Racers, and now I'm screwed because I'm in the second row. So I've got like somebody's head in front of me.
That's right.
And now I can't even see out the side.
That's right.
And this guy's been in line for 10 minutes and he's drinking a beer. They don't want a beer.
So the theme we landed on was the same.
I think I saw him on To Catch a Predator.
Oh, boy. The theme is the same, and the notes I have are same, maybe better. Could the theme for the single rider queue maybe even be better?
I think that what we landed on is that the theme, you don't have to deal with the... Look, it's well put together. It's well themed, but the theme that they're theming it to is like... It's like going to a restaurant and having nothing but like beige fried things on the menu. It's like, okay, no matter how good it is, it's still like, I don't want to be here. I mean, yeah, the spring looks cool. Uh-oh, Jimmy's gone.
We lost Jimmy.
I'm here.
Oh, he's back. Okay, there we go. So what were we saying? Sorry, I got distracted by Jimmy's.
You were talking
betrayal of our podcast.
Wow.
Thanks. Let's point out that I missed the last episode.
Let's not.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
But Dan, I see what you're saying. You can still see the things. You can still see the statue of, what is it, Stanley, the founder of the town. Yeah, you can still see the water
that's
tower.
Actually, Radiator Springs, right?
I think the only thing you're missing with the single rider line versus, I don't know if I'm supposed to have an opinion, but
yes, you are.
I think the only thing that you're missing is the little rooms you go into that are like the little bottles that is only kind of cool at night when you can use your cell phone light to play with the people on the other side of the wall.
Oh, never actually seen that.
So there's in the standby line, you zigzag through this building that's made of like bottoms of like bottles, like beer
oil bottles. Yeah. At least you can see those rooms. That's where I was going. You can see those rooms, but not stand in them, and you don't have to stand in them.
I mean, like, are you missing anything by not seeing those?
And it depends on when you're going to, because I feel like during the summertime that queue is just awful. It's like hot, the sun is beating on you. There's like, because of the way it's laid out, there's no breeze. So I think single rider is pretty good.
That's pretty fantastic.
We've already
It can
landed
be
there.
long though. It can be long depending on because and here's the
Yeah,
other
but it's
thing.
not as long as the standby ever.
Right.
Well, nothing's as long as the standby. But here's the other thing: is that like Lightning Lane is not free. Well, it's never free, but it's a fancy ride, as Molly calls it on
It's a paid
whatever
lightning
show
lane.
she's on. Yeah, it's a paid Lightning Lane. So on one hand, and this is where I'm really torn because in some ways it makes a very, very good argument for itself to be like a potential winner of the whole thing here, but it doesn't always save you. I mean, it saves you more time than standby, certainly. But sometimes you could wait in that line for a half an hour, 45 minutes, 20 minutes. It can be a long single rider line.
It
True.
can, but we're here. It's already made it to the final four. So we're trying to decide, not is it better than itself, but is it better than Test Track?
No,
So-
Okay, well,
it's
can
about-
someone describe
okay.
Test Track
Yeah.
to me? Because I don't know
Yes.
the single rider
All
line.
right,
for
so Test Track is virtually the same ride as Radiator Springs Racers. They're both slot cars, very similar, same track, not exactly the same layout, but the same basic idea. Cars are the same, track's the same. The single rider line is in fact an independent, says single rider. You go on it, you miss most of the queue, just like Radiator Springs. In Test Track's queue, if you're waiting in line, even in Lightning Lane, you get to build. Restart. Son of a motherless goat. You get to build your own car, and you have your magic band or your park ticket, and you get to design your own vehicle. And then when you go and board the ride, you get to scan your magic band or park media, and your car through the test gets to perform, and you perform, your design gets to perform against everyone else who designed in the car. In the single rider line, you may or may not have time to design your car. Even if you do design your car, you won't be able to scan in to see how your car does against everyone else.
Now, I have a question. Does everybody like this about Test Track?
The scanning or the building of the car design?
Yeah, I'm curious of your guys' opinions on that aspect.
Kids seem to like it.
Yeah, I don't
Sorry.
know that you're talking to the right audience for that. I
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
don't
but we're
care.
guests too, so we matter.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of dumb because everyone has the same experience. The old version, the car itself made modifications, so it would perform in different ways based on the modifications of the test, right? Now, in this case, everybody's having the same experience, and so it's all virtual. Like, what hypothetically would your car do if you designed it a certain way? How well it would perform? When we did that episode, I speculated that General Motors takes all that data and is now designing the car of the future based on what is the most efficient.
The Homer.
The Homer, exactly. So anyway,
Eric, what do you think of the design?
I don't care for it, and I don't care for the ride.
Oh, I like I like Test Track. I never rode the original, which I think I would have preferred over the current version, which they're redoing again now or soon anyway. But honestly, I think skipping the designing thing, like during COVID when we went, you couldn't do it because high contact areas.
right.
I was not upset by missing that.
It doesn't add much.
No,
but
it
like
doesn't.
I said,
It takes
kids seem to like
time.
it.
Yeah, it's something to do, right? Just like anything in a queue that gives you something to do is good. Like shining your phone light on a bottle in the Radiator Spring. I mean, it's something to do, right? So for that reason only, but it doesn't add value to the attraction, probably.
yeah.
So I don't
it's-
think you're missing much if you don't do it.
Yeah.
I think it's a cute idea that has like almost no ability to follow through.
Yeah.
So
And it's aged.
Yeah.
How long do you end up staying in line for Test Track on a single rider? Is that quicker than Radiator Springs Racers?
I would argue it is either the same or faster.
Interesting. Okay.
From experience, and also just anecdotally, I have always gone in single rider with someone, be it my wife, my children, someone. And with no exception, I have always ridden with that person.
Because there's a lot of capacity on that.
Yeah.
I also
So-
feel like there's a whole other discussion we could be having about that. because I feel like that incentivizes non-single riders to use
I think it's
that.
fully coincidental, Tag. I don't think it's intentional. It's just coincidental. And again, anecdotally, I've always ridden with the person I was waiting in single rider with.
I've seen that though. Is the point?
Yeah,
it happens on Radiator Springs too.
So if we're talking about the experience, there's something to do. Maybe you may or may not have time to design a car. As far as creep factor goes, I would argue it's the same as Radiator Springs Racers, being the same loading experience.
I can't tell you.
Is it 3 and 3?
Yes, the same exact thing.
Okay, perfect.
To the point of giving you something to do, Radiator Springs Racers single rider line, there's nothing. There's not even a chance for you to do something. It's
True.
just, do you lean against the wall or do you not lean against
That's
the
right.
wall?
So there's something to do, something to see. As far as theme goes, the theme of Radiator Springs Racers is exquisitely done rock work.
Yeah, and it's I think what we said last time was that it's really well done, and it's just as bad as the rest of the.
That's right.
The queue. It's just as
and
boring.
One might argue the same for Test Track. A lot of blue, a lot of inside, a lot of air conditioning, a lot of carpet.
You are inside.
But that's only important if you're in Florida, because California's weather famously is rather pleasant.
Oh, it's been pretty damn hot in that line sometimes, though.
That's fair, because there is not a lot of shade in that line.
Yeah, and it is, the heat is, no pun, radiating off of the concrete.
So the question that I have that I'm trying to figure out to give it to one of these two things is, do I give it to Test Track because you're air conditioned, but then you're still getting through faster, so you're really not gaining that a lot. But in Radiator Springs, like, because you could be standing out in the non-air conditioned thing, maybe that's worth more.
Here's a thought.
Your attention, please.
This episode is brought to you by Brock's Peppermint Candy Canes. Whether you're trimming a tree, adding to your stockings, or making a warm cup of cocoa, Brock's Peppermint Candy Canes make any moment sweeter. And with their great taste and refreshing mint flavor, the holiday spirit tastes like Brock's. Brock's, make moments sweeter. Visit Brock's.com to shop the full range and recipe inspiration today.
What point was I going to make? Oh, yes. That was the point I was going to make. The point I was going to make is, yes, the single rider line is air conditioned at Test Track, but so is the regular queue. So if you're inside for 2 hours, you're still inside for 2 hours in the same dark blue business.
Which in Florida is wonderful.
Right.
But it's not like there's nothing in there. I mean, it's been a while since I've ridden it, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's not like there's like nothing in there that you're like in. It's not like Soarin', where it's just the carpet.
Oh, it's not much better though.
Oh, okay.
It's not
Soarin' on
like,
both coasts is pretty boring, but
Yeah, it's not much better.
Jimmy, yeah, you've been on it more recently, I would assume, because I haven't been on it in a few years because
it's very reminiscent of Soarin' as far as what to see. The only thing I'll give it is maybe. No, I take that back. I don't even think I'm conflating single rider with lightning lane. I don't even think you touch the computer.
Okay.
No, I don't think you do.
I don't think you do.
So when are we ready to decide? I think I'm ready to.
You're ready whenever you want. You're the judge. You decide.
Okay. I think because of cutting down on the amount of time you spend in the sun, I'm going to say Radiator Springs Racers gets the single rider there, because I think that if you don't want to pay for a lightning lane, but you don't want to wait in a 2-hour potential line in the sun, or in the rain, if it's like the weather has been recently in California, I think that the single rider there is better.
All right. Can we be very clear about what you just said?
Yes.
Which is better?
Radiator Springs, I think.
Radiator Springs Racers.
Okay, gotcha.
And not to push back on that decision, but I'm curious. If we say that the Lightning Lane, you no longer have to pay for exclusively, it's now part of just regular Genie Plus, would that change your decision?
No.
Okay.
I think it's just a cherry on top.
Okay.
Lightning Lane can be pretty long too.
Yeah.
It can be.
I mean, Lightning Lane's the devil, but
it is.
If you guys ever have a day where you want to do Lightning Lane versus non-Lightning Lane, I would love to come argue that.
Oh.
Okay, so we just landed on Radiator Springs Racers wins single rider for the slot car bracket. Is that what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm still taking notes.
Here.
Okay,
Jimmy's catching up.
Excellent.
I just wanted to grab another drink. That's where I disappeared to.
Great. Okay, so wonderful. Radiator Springs Racers has moved on to the final four. And Tig, could you reiterate?
You can't say. Well, I guess it is a four final things. I guess you can say that.
Finite Quattro
final bracket.
So Tig, for me, really, and the listener, why did we land on Radiator Springs being the supreme single rider?
Because it allowed people to get out of the sun. Like you still wait in the sun, but you are not waiting in that long line in the sun, as opposed to test track. Also, I think in my experience of seeing the single rider there, I think it depends on when you go, that if you could either get on quickly or if it takes a long time. And with paid Lightning Lane, if paid Lightning Lane is an equation thing, you could be waiting less for single rider than for paid Lightning Lane. And that doesn't cost anything.
I will say another thing in favor of Radiator Springs, which is that you can see, well, basically, if you can see the end of the single rider line from the entrance, don't go on it.
That's a good tip.
But also another thing that I think is important is you can tell how close you are to the front, because we'll probably get into it when you get to the only single rider I've ever been on was Space Mountain, and I had no idea how much longer I was supposed to wait, because at Disneyland, they keep blocking you up and they allow like little groups of people to go. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea how close I was or how far away I was from the beginning. But
spoilers.
Radiator Springs Racers, I feel like it's pretty clear where you are and how much.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you can see the loading area from virtually everywhere in the single rider line.
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the video game bracket. That is Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run versus Web Slingers. Now, where we landed with Web Slingers, just for your information, before we talk about what it is as far as the creep factor goes, it's medium, but you're also maybe be able to help others. And Eric had an evidence where he was able to help these strangers navigate the attraction because he'd done it better before.
Yeah, it's a little creepy, because in that particular instance, it was a dad and a few kids, and I was with, and personally, it feels weird when they're like, "Wow, you're good at this." I'm like,
"Well, did you see my T-shirt?"
This is the third time I've been on it today. I don't know. I don't have anything else to do.
You went on Web Slingers 3 times that day?
I was deliberately researching the single rider line.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
And because it was, I was interested, because 2 out of those 3 times I was on the ride in 10 minutes. And the wait was huge.
All right, so I'm going to skip back again. I apologize. So basically, the queue, if we could start with that, Eric, on Web Slingers, just to remind our listeners and Tag, you get to see the pre-show
in the single rider.
Yes,
in the single rider. This is the single rider episode. Yes.
Okay, so are you single rider? Do you join the main queue in the pre-show room?
You join? No, you don't. What happens is
they keep you in a little shame closet.
there's this little, like,
Tom Holland is like, "I'm not talking to you."
Yeah, he puts his hand up so he can't see your side of the room. But yeah, you kind of go in. So it's on the left from the Lightning Lane and the main queue areas, and you kind of go around a quick switchback, and then they hold you there when everybody goes into the rooms, into that center holding area that's where Lightning Lane and regular line mix. They hold you back. And then when the door opens to go into the pre-show area, they take like 10 of the people from the single rider line and stick you in a little area off to the side. So you kind of have to swap sides of the room. And you're right next to there's like the whiteboard that has a whole bunch of cool writing that I've always wanted to take pictures of and know what's written on there. But you get to see the whole pre-show. You're just separated. And then when everybody else goes into that last few switchbacks to head downstairs, you go into what's basically a cast member hallway. It's still kind of themed, just kind of like everything else is. It's like warehousey, but you go around, you kind of go around a corner and then another corner, and that's literally where the cast members come in and out from their shift. And you kind of have to hold back so that they have an avenue to move through.
Yeah.
Right. And then you kind of get up to the front, and you can't really see much because you're sitting behind. You're right around the corner from where the loading area is, and they just walk up and say, "Come on, you," and you just walk out, and you're there.
So even though this is a new attraction, they did not intend for this attraction to have. It was not designed with single rider in.
It was designed. It just happens to coincide with the cast member entrance and exit. But yeah, it's clearly a hallway designed for that because of the area in the. At least my opinion is it seems like it was clearly designed for that because there's that area in the main, pre-show room, I
think it's fair to say that it's done in a way that it's not clear whether it was designed that way from the beginning or not.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's done well is my point, but I don't remember. I don't know for sure that it was designed that way. Just like if there's any purists out there, it's like, I hate you now,
So can you think of an attraction that was designed with a single rider in mind?
We'll get to it in this very bracket.
Right. Good point.
True.
And part of that is you say you see the pre-show. This is the video game bracket. Do you need to see the pre-show every time?
If you've never been on it before, I mean,
would you go in single rider if you've never been on it before?
The first time I went on Falcon, the first 4 times I went on Falcon, I went on the single rider because it was opening weekend and I did not want to wait 2.5 hours.
So you never saw Hondo until
I didn't see Hondo. Yeah.
How many times do you need to see Hondo? I think once.
I'm curious about this, but I think we're talking about the wrong attraction right now.
True.
All right. So web slingers. So you got the description of the single rider line, and we decided creep factor is medium. The time saver is what we landed is probably a time saver. And Dan,
between this and Lightning Lane, I think it's just by the numbers. It's probably that's hard to say because if you're going through Lightning Lane, this is included in Genie Plus there. It could be a 1-to-1, actually.
It's probably similar to Lightning Lane. I don't know that I've ever done Lightning Lane. Have I?
And then the theme is the notes are less disappointing when you're in single rider.
Oh yeah, because it's the whole thing. I think that's a me note. It's because the whole thing feels like an afterthought. So if you're in the single rider line, which is it's like well, it may as well be this, Yeah.
And because you're not having to wait the whole time, it's not as disappointing as if you're waiting the hour and a half in the switchbacks outside and then get inside and okay.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's like the disappointment is scaled down to I'm going through some hallways with minimal theming as opposed to I'm in a show building with minimal theming.
And then we moved to the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. We went there in the last episode, but just to catch you up, Tag, this, as we kind of alluded to, this misses part of the show. You don't see Hondo Anaka, so if you'd never been in the queue, you wouldn't know that exists. But
that sounds terrible already.
But is a damn fine single rider, and you'll probably be the engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there is a dedicated entrance for single rider. If you go to the right, like most people, you'll wait a little bit. If you go to the left, unlike most people, you're bound to get on almost immediately.
Not almost, immediately. I have yet to wait longer than 30 seconds. And I mean that literally.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. I think I would echo that. The creep factor is low.
I would say
just kind of.
I would say creep factor is actually negative.
Is that NA
on this one? Not even
not
NA.
applicable?
I would say creep factor on this one because it's a social ride, or it can be. So you're thrown into a role where like everyone's helping, and it's not like the weird thing like, here, let me lean over your child and help you with your web slinging abilities. Like it's like, I'm doing a job, I'm here to help. And it also, I realized when I wrote it this last time, it has this really fun thing that not a lot of single rider lines have that I can think of, where like it's kind of cool to go and like, okay, I have this group of 4 people this time, or group of 5 people, and they have their dynamic, and it introduces a whole new social thing that you get to be a part of or observe while helping. It's actually, I think, an entirely net positive for everybody.
It's such a huge icebreaker, whether you do poorly or you do well. At the end, everybody's hyped up. Everybody's like, wow, hey, that was cool. And hey, thanks for, everybody's commiserating afterward.
So let me ask
you run
this
down
question.
the hallway and leave.
Let me ask this question, because the Web Slingers is also communal, and you're also helping each other, right?
It's not clear though. I mean, you have to have seen X many YouTube videos and know that this bucket of goo is over there, and but
for the most part, you're flailing your arms out in front of you and hoping something good happens.
You're frantically trying to get it. You're like, oh, this seems to be doing something.
Yeah. So then we have time saver is very high on Millennium Falcon.
High. Yeah.
And the theme is just okay. It's still a hallway, but you're not in it long enough to care.
It's a Star Wars-y hallway.
Dan, will you explain to me something? So single rider for smugglers.
Mm-hmm.
So we went like I don't remember. We went last year with some friends of ours that had a small child.
Right.
And the small child, as we were in the main room as a group getting ready to like get put into our cockpit, had to go to the bathroom. So they sent us out like an emergency exit thing that actually exited us out where the single rider comes in. I want to say maybe
that is most
maybe
likely
not.
the case.
It might have been next to that. Anyway, where do you show up to get put into a pod with somebody, into the cockpit with somebody?
Are you talking about from the entrance or at the grouping area? So from the entrance, if you're looking at the place where you go.
Oh no! I'm sorry, I got that part. I'm saying when you join your people, where do you join your people at?
At
where they group you
at the chess table room.
Just before that.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like, when they give you your color.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you walk up, and most of the time, I've done this several times, almost every time there's maybe at the most 2 people in front of me. It's almost always you walk up and they're like, hey, and an engineer, you're joining this group. Like it is no wait.
Yeah, it's true.
And then you're just waiting in the Falcon room.
Yeah, you're waiting in the waiting area. So you still get kind of the pièce de résistance, if you will, which is hanging out in the Millennium Falcon with the chess table and yada, yada. So kind of the thing people wait for.
Does
you just don't
anybody
have to wait for it.
think that they don't give us enough time in that room?
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed.
I feel like every time I sit down to take like a cool photo, like I'm waiting for the people before me to move, and then I go to sit down, they're like, red group, and I'm like, crap, that's us. And they start like yelling at you, like if you don't like get to move in as the red group, like they're pretty irritated.
I agree, but I also think that that's kind of a benefit because you never really get tired of it.
That's fair. And if you're a single rider, you don't really want to be hanging out in there because you've been there enough times.
Right.
The first few times I went in the earliest days at Walt Disney World when it was open, they had a little more time because I think they weren't quite as efficient as they needed to be. Now they just boom, 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 boom. Like, let's just keep everybody moving. Back then, I think like all 6 groups were in the room at the same time. Because I remember wandering around and taking pictures of everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's gotten more efficient. Tag, just to set, again, for context for everyone, this episode is about the queue, not the ride. Right. So what is the best single rider line based on what you've heard, unless you need more argument, between Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run single rider queue and Web Slingers single rider queue? Which is better?
I'm torn because it really matters, I think, if you care about the pre-show. Because I think if you care about the pre-show, which I enjoy the pre-show of Web Slingers, and I enjoy the pre-show of Smuggler's Run, that if you want to see the pre-show, you'd have to pick web slingers because you don't get Hondo.
Right.
Now, I will say maybe a third of the time I've been on Smuggler's Run, the Hondo animatronic has not been working.
Ooh.
Huh.
So you go in there and he's literally like covered in a tarp or
No.
well,
They don't have B
it's
mode
like
or
a
anything?
canvas bag kind of thing, and then he shows up on the it's not as good. I also think the live action actor is not very good looking for Hondo, but anyway, I digress. I will say that I think Web Slingers wins this one for me just because I think it's important to also get the pre-show.
I'm in.
But do you need to see the pre-show every time?
Yes, it's part of the experience.
But I will also say, in general, though, Dan, I don't know if this is going to make you feel better or worse. In general, I think both of these attractions are not that great.
Fair. Okay, so Web Slingers is moving on to the Fiend Quatre.
It's probably not going to win at this point, but
it could take it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on to our Coaster in the Dark bracket, which is Rock and Roller Coaster versus Space Mountain.
Ooh.
To catch tag up on Space Mountain, you've been there, you've already alluded to it. You have to kind of know that it's there. It's not a very distinct, like, lightning lane.
And they move it.
Standby, single rider. It's in the exit.
I always have to ask when I get there. I'm like, so are you doing single? Yeah, it's down the hall. Okay.
Here's the trick. If the sign is up, they're doing it. If it's not, they're not.
There you go.
But I've been there where they've had you go up like the lightning lane entrance before, and I've been there where they're like, no, you got to go around the exit.
Okay. So it's it fluctuates. Maybe it's not 100% there. Mostly through the exit, it's a dull, dank hallway that is not themed at all. I have a note about DAS Pass and employees.
Oh, yeah. Usually the person and that's why I mentioned the sign. Usually the person who you would ask if the single rider line is operating or not is also juggling like so many people trying to get on a DAS Pass. And you are their last priority, and that's understandable. So basically, and I've gotten this from a cast member there, just look for the sign. If the sign is up that says single rider line, it means just go. It's open. If you don't see the sign, it's not happening.
And then the creep factor we have is medium to low. Things are moving fast. You're just kind of dumped in there real quick.
You're sitting next to one person instead of like a whole family or something.
And it's usually noticeably jarring for them because
who's this guy?
Because everyone's loading from one side.
For the single rider, because what if you're in there with like a whole group of girls that want to scream the whole time, and you're just like, well, there goes my ride.
Yeah, that's fair. The time saver is high. The theme is lame.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to Rock and Roller Coaster. Rock and Roller Coaster does have an independent marked single rider queue. Now, you're standing outside in a switchback of sorts. You're covered, and you might get pre-show.
Wet.
Well, you might get pre-show.
What do you mean you might get pre-show?
No, you always get the pre-show.
From experience, you might just walk through that room.
Oh, really? So they've just because there's that little balcony above.
Yeah, the balcony. So, but let's just go with the assumption that you get pre-show. Okay. Now, so you've got the pre-show. I think we all know what that is. Steven Tyler and the gang.
Vulgar hand gesture.
Or you just walk by the pre-show. Either way, you can watch the pre-show if you want. You then enter into the back alley into your own independent lane. I have been there multiple times where the God mic, if you will, the loudspeaker says, you may or may not wait the same amount of time in the single rider line than you will in the standby line.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee of any time saved in single rider. From experience, that is true.
Yeah, I've had some great times going through that line, and then I've had some really awful just standing there times. My favorite was one instance when my friend James and I were going, we're there at the park, and he's like, let's just do the single rider line. It'll be quicker. I'm like, maybe. And we stood in that dank hallway, like 20 people back for probably half an hour because the dude who is running, who is queuing everybody up wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
and he was inefficient. He was starting to fall behind. And then this pro came out. She walks out of the back and she just goes, you. And every single, the single rider line cleaned out after that, because he was spending all this time trying to figure out how to put all the puzzle pieces together. And
you
she's like,
can't
you're
put them
missing
there.
the piece.
Yeah, you can't put the pieces together outside. You have to do it once you're inside. Load the thing up till it's full, and then like Matterhorn, load it up till it's full, and then when it starts getting empty, bring more people in.
Right. Yeah, she came in and just cleared the line in minutes, but we stood there forever. It was
such a miserable feeling.
Oh,
I think, and then for creep factor, I think it's probably the same as Space Mountain.
Yeah.
Similar deal. You're just kind of loading up. You're both loading in from the same side, which may or may not help.
True.
But let's call that low.
There's less of a surprise factor. A guy.
I think I'm ready to adjudicate. I think Space gets this one because, or no. Raider, no.
Rock and Roller Coaster.
Rock and Roller Coaster.
Why?
Because Space's single rider line is terrible.
Yeah, and just to
do you know what
finish
else it was? There was a like a service dog in a kennel in the area with the single riders we were getting ready to board, and they came out and the cast member came and had to like sanitize the whole thing, and I felt like I was in her way the whole time, and I just thought it was obviously this attraction, Space, was an attraction in the 70s. They weren't even thinking about single rider. It is not designed for that. Rock and Roller Coaster. I wish you just put the full name on there. Rock and Roller Coaster, I feel at least you get something for it, and it doesn't seem like it feels as awkward.
You get the same ultimately you get the same experience. It just takes less time.
Space Mountain, though, I went a couple months ago with some friends. We rode that thing 3 times in like 20 minutes.
The question is, what is the best single rider queue?
Yeah, the line sucks.
And it's confusing. Yes. Once you get down there, I've like I said on the last episode, I had somebody almost get into a fight because he just kept on walking. We're all like, hey, get back here. And there's no cast member to say, go into that weird alcove.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I went up to the main entrance where they do not fast pass, where they do lightning lane. And I'm like, where's the single rider? And they're like, oh, you got to go back out and around and in the exit. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I had to go find it. There was a podium there and I had to ask. It was just not done well all around.
You got to know about it.
Rock and Roller Coaster is probably more clear in that fact.
There you go. And it's, basically you're basically getting the same experience. The biggest variable is it may or may not save you time.
As much as I love Space, just to be clear.
Yeah, thank you. Final bracket is Expedition Everest. This is our Yeti bracket. Expedition Everest versus Matterhorn. To catch tag up, Matterhorn, you're grouped in outdoor queue, and like we had just talked about, you're on. Sorry. It says grouped in outdoor queue, stroller side. They fill in the groups waiting next to the loading area. So, like we just said, they just bring a bunch of people into the loading areas of either side of the tracks, either Fantasyland or Tomorrowland side. And then as the thing depletes, they start filling in the void. So they group it in. You are standing next to the loading area. We decided the creep factor is very low because you're sitting in your own seat. You're not next to anyone. You're in your very own seat with your own seatbelt. If
this was a few years ago, it would be very creepy.
Very creepy. I don't know they would have it
then. Get on in. It's a lap
pitcher. So
I will say I do miss the lap sitting.
Do you?
I do.
Straddle. Time saver's high. Theme, same. You're outside waiting in line.
Yodeling.
Time saver is, I think we discussed, it's almost always at least better than your lightning lane.
Right.
If not by a hair.
That's a big difference.
Okay. Now, Expedition Everest is another one of those where it's an afterthought. It's not always going because sometimes they don't need it. It is off to if you're looking at the attraction, it's off to the right, and it's switchbacks that basically bring you straight to the loading area. There's no theme. You're not going through the queue. You don't get to see all the Nepalese thing. You're just waiting in a switchback. You get next in line. It's not always going. As creep factor goes, I suspect it's the same as your Space Mountains and Rock and Roller Coasters. You're just loading a roller coaster train from the same side, and you probably have a load or two to get accustomed to the person that's standing there next to you. Time saver is high. The theme is kind of non-existent. You're just an outside queue. You're not seeing anything that is themed.
Considering the extensive theming in that queue, it's practically a pre-show.
You don't see anything. Yeah, exactly. And in the single rider, you don't get any of it.
Yeah, single rider at the Matterhorn, it feels very. I know it sounds like an afterthought because you're going through the stroller, but like it feels very well integrated. You don't miss anything. Not that there's a ton to miss, but still,
there's nothing to miss.
Yeah, I mean, there's no pre-show, but it's still. I mean, there's an environment aspect to it. You know,
you get the yodeling.
Yeah, you get the yodeling. You still get to hear the goat in the distance, and like you miss nothing. It's just pure.
There's a goat
time
in
saved.
the distance.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm not sure about a goat.
A sound effect. It's just sound design, just like a goat, or I don't know. Maybe it's a lamb.
Dan's really pushing for a Disneyland win here. Although,
go ahead, Eric.
He got he got web slingers, but he didn't agree.
I don't think he wanted.
Yeah,
web
no,
slingers.
yeah.
All right, so Tag, if I can summarize this, Matterhorn is effectively the same experience overall, just less time. Expedition Everest is less time than single rider, but you're not getting the experience at all. You're missing the entire pre-show queue, et cetera, et cetera. So museum. No, you are getting in line to ride a roller coaster.
Is there a lightning lane on Everest?
Yes.
Does
single rider go faster than lightning lane?
Yes.
Does
Presumably.
lightning lane get the queue?
Yes.
The pre-show.
Not all of it.
Not the whole queue. Yeah. I can't remember where lightning lane joins in.
You cut out the museum.
Okay, so I wanted to give it to Everest because I think it's a better attraction, but I know we're just judging
the queue.
standby, so
Yes.
I'm going to say Matterhorn.
Oh,
do you have a soundbite for why?
For the Matterhorn, it sounds like it's a little more organized. It sounds like it doesn't change your experience very much. I feel like that's pretty good. Everest, you're really missing out.
Yeah.
I think it's doing a disservice to that attraction to skip that. Even though, if you've been on it a bunch of times, you can make the same argument you did with web slingers, but
right. So yeah, I think I'm with you on this. Missing that. The queue experience. Yeah, I'm with you. So
this is interesting because it's and this isn't trying to be combative. It's just I'm just realizing that here we have
combative? No.
So, try not to be. It's here. I am somebody who I generally more times than not will go to the parks by myself, and when I am wanting to ride these lines, it's more just I'm just on it. I get to go on the ride. It's great. Whereas I think if you're going with other people, having more aspects of the show means more because it's more about taking. I don't know. I think this is
sounds like to me that you should just go to Six Flags because if you don't want theming and you just want to go on a ride, go to Six Flags.
Well, I think that the point here is that Matterhorn doesn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Everest misses everything.
Yeah. Not
that there's much to miss in Matterhorn anyway. There's nothing to really miss, but you don't know what you don't know with Everest.
Everest, I feel sets the mood in the queue.
I totally agree.
Yeah, that's fair. You don't have to go and discuss, hey, look at that big footprint with your neighbors, but you're still soaking it all in. Even if you're chit-chatting, you've seen it before. Gives you time to kind of get ready.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm getting to is that to me, and I'm not saying that I'm more right or anything. It's just I'm just realizing that to me, it's if I get into a single rider line, I'm just going on the ride. I'm not
right.
I don't need an appetizer. It's just get me on the ride.
Well, and it is about the single rider queue, and I think in this case,
I think we're going ultimately in the right direction. It's just not a direction that I expected. is what I'm trying to say.
Well, in the case of this, in both cases, you're just going on the ride because you're not seeing anything either way. Okay, so moving on to the final four, we have Radiator Springs Racers versus Matterhorn and Rock and Roller Coaster versus Web Slingers. We'll start with the Western bracket and say Radiator Springs Racers in its outdoor queue and Matterhorn in its outdoor queue.
I think it comes down to which environment would you rather wait in.
That's fair. Yeah, basically, right? Because you're seeing the ride the whole time for the most part. You're hearing the ride in both cases. You're outside in both cases. You're experiencing the same basic queue in both cases.
Matterhorn, sometimes you'll get to see a parade.
I think I'm going to give it to Matterhorn because, again, temperature.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the
Very
concrete and nothing else. At least there's like some trees and stuff around Matterhorn. And I feel like the Matterhorn itself can even block sun and whatnot from you, where I feel like you're baking. It's like you're an egg on the sidewalk at Radiator Springs.
That's fair because Matterhorn's, it's 60 plus years of lush growth and whatnot. It is rather shaded, nice breeze over there. A little bit of a breezeway.
Plus you get yodeling and stuff. Like, what do you get at Radiator Springs Racers?
You get loud cars that come by.
Yeah. At Matterhorn, you get a variety of stimulus like the yodeling, and Matterhorn, the monorail goes by occasionally.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
kinetic energy.
It's not just I'm sitting here and listening to an old radio.
You know, the thing that I really, really dislike about Radiator Springs, now that I'm thinking about it, it's you're walking past, you're running past. Yeah, I got to go on this Cars ride.
I hate cars.
You're walking past everybody. You're feeling good about the speed you're making, and then you get this demoralizing area where you've got to switch back.
Ooh, yeah,
right at the end.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Why couldn't they have done the queue? Like, why couldn't they have put the queue? I mean, I know it's in the attraction, but why couldn't they have put the queue like through more of the town or something, like where you're going through some of the buildings or something? I don't know, something more interesting. I'm with you, Eric.
Yeah, good point.
Because then what would the land be?
Also, good point.
Good points all around. I'm just saying, like, I wish they could have come up with something different.
Yeah, it is very boring. It's very reminiscent of Thunder Mountain with less theming.
Could they have done it like a cave? Like you would have been in the caves of the thing? Like that would have been cool. Because then you're in the shade. You can have some bat noises. You're basically an Indiana Jones queue.
Well, that's basically like Flight of Passage, yeah.
And they could have done more, like cones and the different cars theming. They could have immersed you in that world a little bit better. Good point.
Yeah. Lots more Mater songs.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that should have been the cue, is Rollickin' Roadsters or whatever the thing is. That's the cue.
Well, Jimmy, I'm going to derail
the
podcast for a minute because this question just came up and I want to get both of your answers to it. So on the hub crawl, one of the questions we asked this week was if you could have a character, an actor who was in the attraction. So Patrick Warburton came to Soarin'. That's what started this question. What actor would you like to surprise you on an attraction that you like at Disney?
I think just because of having seen it is Johnny Depp. I don't know why.
With Pirates?
But that's my gut reaction. I'll let Dan answer and I'll come back.
I want to see Timothée Chalamet in Galaxy's Edge and just be like, what? Just confuse
somebody not
everybody.
Involved with the property?
Because Dune is Star Wars. Influenced by Dune.
I don't know.
Felicia Rashad.
Yes,
100%. Felicia Rashad and Dinosaur.
Yeah,
that's it.
Totally co-sign that one.
Soon to be R.I.P.
Just dub over her lines. Just speak in her lines.
Yeah.
I picked Patrick Warburton probably is my number 2, and for people who know me, this would not be a surprise. Tom Holland for Spider-Man.
Of course. Yeah, good point.
I've drooled over his picture in the queue, so having him be there, I would die.
He's dreamy, no doubt. This
Eric,
is an interesting question.
Mine was Bob Gurr. I want Bob Gurr to show up on the Autopia and then jump on an original Autopia car, one of the ones that doesn't have rails, and then jump the rail and drive down Main Street.
Which would confuse and delight.
Is that true to the question, though?
I would love to see Hutch
the way the question was phrased, I thought it fit.
I want to see Hutch Dano dressed up as Abraham Lincoln,
Oh my God. Is he still
grandson of Royal Dano.
I'm like, his name isn't. It's
I
Royal
was gonna
Dano.
say it's Royal. Yeah, I'm still sticking with Felicia.
Yeah.
Bye, Felicia.
Right.
Okay, so
I
moving on.
apologize
to
for taking us off, but I
No,
thought
not
it was
at
a
all.
good
It's a
question.
great promotion for Hub Crawl. Listen to Hub Crawl to get the answers.
Yeah.
Rock and Roller Coaster versus Web Slingers. Rock and Roller Coaster, we just spoke about. You get the pre-show. It's hit or miss on speed, but effectively you get the same queue. Web Slingers effectively get the same queue. You get the pre-show and save time.
Huh.
This is a tough one
Yeah, it is.
because they basically are the same. You get real actors projected in a way that
That's
looks like
correct.
they're there. You get
Current.
I'm
They're
changing
in
my
their
last
current
answer.
form.
Steven Tyler is my new answer.
Oh, well, there you go.
Felicia Rashad.
That would be cool. He just shows
would
up
be
and is
cool.
just like, "Let's go!"
We love our fans.
Yeah.
You know how you feel about our fans?
That's right.
Crap. This one's difficult.
So
Because I'm
wait,
trying not to take into account the actual attraction because I think Rock and Roller Coaster is the better attraction.
Sure.
This is a single rider line.
That's
were
right.
you saying that the single rider line can be as long as the standby or can be as long as the lightning line?
Can be as long as the standby
Yeah.
For which one?
for Rock and
Rock
Roller
and Roller.
Coaster.
Oh.
Announced overhead, even when you walk into single rider, this could take the same amount of time as standby, just so you know.
Okay. Well, I was going to give it to Rock and Roller Coaster because of the fact that they had a somewhat covered outdoor queue where I looked at pictures of the standby for Web Slingers and that looked like it was also in the sun. And apparently I have a
It
whole
is.
thing about not being in the sun. But judging by the fact that you'll probably get in a lot quicker, I'm going to go with Web Slingers for
Okay.
time saving.
Yeah.
and the Tom
you
Holland
will.
factor.
Well, and Tom Holland, because you don't skip Tom Holland. Like,
That's fair. And who
Web
would?
Slingers, the single rider, is as shaded as I think Rock and Roller Coaster is.
Well, Rock and Roller Coaster is almost all covered, almost all of it shaded.
Right, but I'm saying that like the single rider line portion of that
Web Slingers.
Oh, I
is
see
Web
what you're saying.
Slingers has
Gotcha.
a covering directly over it.
You
the
can
rest
decide
is
pretty
Six
quick.
Flags. Yeah,
I think for me, because of the time saver, again, like you said, if we're talking about attractions, I would rather wait for Rock and Roller Coaster. But
yeah.
because it's such a crapshoot. Okay, so the championship bracket is the Matterhorn
okay.
versus Web Slingers.
We did not think
Web
of this.
Slingers cannot win this. I'm just saying.
Well, I think Web Slingers wins because the Matterhorn literally has no pre-show.
There you go.
Wow.
And Tom Holland.
Wait a minute. Wait. So, but that's about the ride, not about.
No,
No, the
because
queue.
you get to experience.
But you're not-
experience the pre-show.
It's still the queue.
It's the queue, Dan.
There's
It's
more
not the
queue
ride.
after the pre-show. And it's a different queue. It's the single rider queue.
But this
also,
isn't
you have
pre-show or no pre-show.
Fine,
This- you're
Dan.
not-
Here we go.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll take that part out.
Okay.
Okay.
It has air conditioning at least through part of it, which the Matterhorn does not.
Which is interesting because the Matterhorn beat Rock and Roller or Radiator Springs Racers because of the
Right,
cooler
but nothing
outside.
beats inside air conditioning.
Okay.
Or if it's raining, you're still covered.
That's fair. And the ride is probably still going if it's raining.
Dan's
that's
having a lot of trouble processing this right now.
You know, I would not want Web Slingers to win anything because I think it's actually kind of a garbage
I
attraction
know.
overall.
I know.
But,
I know.
but its single
Okay.
rider queue is really
There
strong.
you go.
The one good thing about Web Slingers, other than Tom Holland pre-show, is that it has a great single rider queue. That's
There you
all
go.
I can say about it.
There you go. Well, there you have it, folks. The Web Slingers. What is the full name of this attraction?
I think it's just, isn't it just Web Slingers?
It's capitalized WEB, but
Hold on a
Engineering.
second. I had the app up a second ago.
Worldwide.
It's Worldwide
Engineering
Engineering
Brigade.
Brigade,
Yeah.
which is Web.
Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure.
There you go.
Oh.
And Matterhorn bobsleds versus Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure. In the world of the Supreme Resort, the best,
No.
the most supreme single rider queue
I
is
don't-
Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure.
Which you could bypass right now. It's a 45-minute standby line.
There you go.
We truly live on the darkest timeline, everybody.
Who'da thunk it, ladies and gentlemen? That is the answer. Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure, is the supreme single rider queue at
Now,
all
I have a
of the
question
domestic theme parks.
for you guys. What did you think was going to win? Each of you. I'm sure you all had different thoughts of what.
I
you
thought
thought.
it was going to come down to Radiator Springs Racers and
versus Falcon.
the Falcon.
Falcon.
Oh.
Based on our previous episode, I would have said the same. If you're asking me, I would have said Rock and Roller Coaster.
That's fair because it is pretty good, except for the one really bad experience I had.
Yeah, and it just takes forever. But that's what I would have thought, Tag. But based on our last episode, listening back, I would say it would have been between Radiator Springs and Falcon.
It's interesting that you bring me on, and then I took it in a totally different direction.
That's why we do it.
It's the subjectivity factor, right? That's the whole point of the show. Is we try to be as objective as possible, but at the end of the day, it's the way you feel. We could have brought 10 other judges on and had 10 other answers, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And here they are.
And from DL Weekly, it's Teresa. Okay.
You should have her on for one of these because I'm curious what she would pick on some of these. I'll have to ask her.
We could do it
I'll show
again.
her the bracket. Again.
We could do
Third
our
time's the charm.
All of April
right.
is just re-recordings of this episode.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so back to the show. So that's that. Before we end, and thank you again, Tag, for joining us. And we really apologize for all the technical difficulties we've had the listener knows nothing about.
Not a problem.
Until
Technology
now.
sometimes will just technology.
And next year, we will have you back for potentially children's menus
Or dad shirts.
or dad shirts.
So what's the idea of the children's menus? I'm just curious.
The best, Disney has wonderful children's menus.
Yeah. Isn't it usually just like a cheeseburger and like
Oh, no.
Not always.
No, that's the
Sometimes
thing.
the fries have a special kind of salt.
That's right. Well, there's a fruit option.
and chicken nuggets?
But you think about Narcoossee's, you think about, California Grill. Everything has a children's menu. You can get fish. You can get, there's a lot of different choices.
Sometimes they're in stick form. Sometimes they're not.
It's going to be it's going to be very exhaustive.
We did sit next to somebody for the Oogie Boogie Bash dining package, and they ordered their child the salmon. And I was like, what timeline is this?
Yeah.
And the kid ate like 2 bites of it.
I want to go to like classic to old menus because at King Stephen's Table, which is now
Cinderella's Royal Table.
In the early days, you could get a small beef tenderloin for your child.
Yep.
So,
and that's true in some places still.
Yeah,
so
you can still do it.
Well, it's going to be exhaustive. We're going to get there. Or dad shirts.
Well,
Dan and I have been working on the menus episode for 2 years now.
So
And
it's
we'll do
a
that.
real good one.
We'll do that. Then we'll do the tiki room. Okay. So before we go, wanted to let everybody know forgive me if there's any conflict here. You can plug your ears, Tag, but ConciEARS, that's 856 Our Ears to book your Disney vacation. We will do everything for you, including your dining reservations, your theme park reservations, if you need them, which you don't at Disney World.
We sponsor DL Weekly as well.
Oh, right. That's right. Also, Disneyland Paris. We have a repeat customer in Mr. Stevenson. He and his family are going to Disneyland Paris. We were able to get them a really delightful package at the Hotel Newport. You can book your dining 12 months in advance.
Holy cow.
My
Once you've
goodness.
made your booking, you can book your dining. You do not need theme park reservations. If you were to go and piecemeal it and say, I want tickets for this and I want to stay here and I want to do this. I did this with another client. The price is about 40% higher to do a non-package than to do a package. Like, I only want to go for 2 days. Fine, but you're going to be there for 3. It's less expensive for you to book the package with 3-day park hopper.
Le package.
Le package. And their cancellation policy is 7 days before travel.
Wow.
You can cancel with a full refund. These are things that the other tour guides won't tell you. Disneyland Paris. Yeah. So do that. We have other shows. Before we get there, Tag, is there anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah, I would like to say that you definitely should book with ConciEARS because James and I are actually going on a 13-night transatlantic Disney cruise that ConciEARS is helping us with.
Wow.
And it has been a wonderful experience. So we wholeheartedly agree that ConciEARS is where it's at, and there's plenty of planners over there who are wonderful to work with. Jimmy, I believe you are still a planner there.
I am planning. Well, what happened was that Tage reached out to me and said, I'd really like to book through you. And I said, you know what, Tage? I'd like to give someone else a chance. So,
well,
who did you end up choosing?
To be fair, Jimmy, I asked Lindsay who their cruise person was, and they said Bethany knows the most about cruises.
She's the best, no doubt.
I hooked up with Bethany to. That did not come out right.
Bethany's wonderful. She's. If you were to ask me, I would have actually said call Bethany.
Yeah, she's been great. And I'm very excited because we go at the beginning of May, and that's going to be
I'm
really
excited
awesome.
for you. Transatlantic
First Disney cruise too.
That's great. We'll have you on for a full trip report.
Call Ryan. We're taking over the hub crawl again.
Oh, that's right, because he's going to be gone for a month.
Yeah, celebrate our 36th anniversary.
That's right. Tage, what was the feedback last year when you took the summer off? What was the listener feedback that were? Excuse me, let me rephrase. The listeners you had left.
But I will say that if I go look at our download numbers,
they're
let's let the download numbers speak.
The feedback was, why aren't all the shows this long?
So before I left, what was the? Let's see. We were in the high 400, low 500 downloads per episode, and then the summer hit, and now
people travel.
We're actually back up where we were, so maybe it doesn't matter.
Right. But there was a blip, right?
But there was a blip of people thought the chaos was chaos. But we have gotten some feedback that they loved the chaos. So I don't know. It just depends on your tastes, right?
Tag enjoyed it. Just wanted to answer all the questions.
Just like Dan thought that Web Slingers shouldn't win. Didn't matter because I
didn't
thought.
Matter. There you go.
And if you also love the chaos, listen to Bo Explaining.
Bo Explaining. Anywhere you get your fine podcasts, other shows on this network, Ears Up and Bantha Milk, where they're talking about the Bad Batch currently. And then I'm sure they'll talk about the Acolyte trailer. I'm not sure. And then, of course, Puny Pod, where they talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and release order. And then Scraping the Vault, where we're getting back to the straight-to-video sequels.
Oh, yeah. Fox and the Hound 2.
Fox and the Hound 2. We just watched Princess Mononoke, if you'd like a 10-year-old's...
That is a great movie.
Yes, it is. Not made for children, but listen to a children's opinion if you want to know what that movie's about.
What's after Fox and the Hound 2?
Cinderella 3.
Oh, yeah.
Twist in time, baby.
So Disney's upgraded. They've taken their sequels, and instead of just putting them direct to video, they're like, let's theatrically release these now.
Right. Like Inside Out 2?
Like
Moana
every
2.
sequel.
Moana 2.
Yes.
Frozen 3 coming.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a different podcast for a different time. In the meantime, thank you very much, Tage, for being here. We appreciate all your time and patience, and thank you for your expertise and all of your content. We love listening to you. We love having you on the show. And
thanks for having me. I love being on, and hopefully your audience enjoys it as well. And you're not going to get too many hate letters for Web Slingers.
If you want hate letters, listen to the Haunted Mansion episode before we relitigate it. Okay, so thank you for listening, everybody. Be good to each other.
Episode of this show.
That's right. And until next time, court is adjourned.
All right. While we wait for Jimmy, I'm going to go grab a pen for my notes.
Good. Oh,
Eric, what is this show?
What is this show?
What is this show? I feel for Jimmy though. I feel like Jimmy tries to keep it together and tries to organize. Jimmy just rebooted. He should just click reboot and let it do its thing and come back.
My point stands. Think about that.
I'm sorry. What was your point, Eric? I'm sorry.
I can restate the point when Jimmy's back.
Okay, that sounds great. I have literally nothing else the rest of today, and you guys probably have lives, but like, this isn't bugging me.
I got to edit this show.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, because every time it blips out, that's like...
This is the most editing I've had to do in a while.